You can just look in the middle. It's usually easiest. And to start, if you wouldn't mind just saying and spelling your first and last name so we pronounce correctly.
Yep, it's Nicole Cisney Durbin, NICOLE-CISNEDURBIN, and I'm the president and CEO of Family Resources.
Wonderful. So you're working with family members throughout this process.
We're offering services to anyone who's been affected by the tragic loss of Breasia, yes.
And can you tell us what that looks like?
So our services are all free and confidential, and they can really be tailored to whatever you need. Whether you're someone who knew Breasia personally and you need one-on-one support, or let's say you're a group of students who all knew Breasia and you want us to come in and maybe meet with the children, be there and process their feelings around losing their friend, or maybe you were Breasia's teacher or her school counselor, and you can't provide that support to the rest of your school community. We can come in and offer that during this time. So it's really based on what the needs are, as opposed to just a menu of this is exactly what it looks like. We're really here to be flexible and adapt to the community's needs.
Do you have any advice for parents who might have kids who need Breasia from school, how to talk to them?
Yeah, so if you're a parent and your child knew Breasia, they're gonna know this information. We're not gonna keep this hidden from them. It's just the world we live in with the media, they're gonna find out. So if you're a parent and you don't know how to talk to your kids about this, we're here to help. The crisis line that I gave out earlier is a great number. We can walk them through that. But I think what's important for parents to do is to have a really honest conversation with their kids and trust their children's emotions. And if they're grieving, let them grieve. Give them that space. And then talk to your kids about ways that you keep them safe. Because not only is this a tragic loss and grief for kids, it may scare them, right? If you're a 9-year-old girl and you just saw a 9-year-old girl on TV for 10 months being missing, they might think that that's going to happen to them. So we have to talk to them about all the ways that the adults in their life keep them safe to help them process the grief that they have, but also gives them a sense of security.
For the parents that might think, my kids are too young if they're in kindergarten to learn about this or really learn how to talk about this to your kids, is there an age that might be too early to talk about Breasia and what happened to her?
I don't know if there's an age that's too early, depending on their exposure to this information, but there's definitely a developmental way to talk to a 3-year-old versus a 6-year-old, right? So we want to use words that 3-year-olds understand. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 9-year-old. They speak very different languages, right? So our 3-year-old, we're going to talk about being sad, how we miss people. But with my 9-year-old, I'm going to have a different conversation, right? I'm not going to go into details that are inappropriate for a 9-year-old, but I'm going to trust that the words that she uses to reflect her emotions are how she feels, and that's what I need to reflect back to her. This is really hard to see. It's really hard to hear about. I'm sorry. This was no one's fault. Things like that. And again, ways in which you, as a parent or as an adult in a child's life, ensure their safety.
Of course, he talks about the ripple effect that we see of this through our community. I would imagine you see the brunt of that. How does this do that? How does it affect, not just family members and classmates, but an entire community?
Sure. So yes, there's going to be a ripple effect. I can't imagine any of you who've been covering this for 10 months don't feel a sense of loss right now. So that's the same thing for our community. So it's hard. So as a community, we have to come together. One of the reasons I love living in the Quad Cities is there is this small town community feel, even though this is a pretty big area, and we support each other. So check in on each other. If you know someone is going to be impacted by this, and they're not someone you think will necessarily reach out to us for help, call them, check in on them, text them, see how they're doing. People who are closer to Breasia's family or to Breasia, like her neighbors, her schoolmates, they need extra support right now too. And if you have a child that knew Breasia and you're starting to notice just behaviors that are out of the ordinary, maybe they're more frustrated or their temper's flaring, those are really common reactions for kids who are dealing with grief. So normalize that, it's okay, it's normal for you to feel this way, you know, and just be there to support them.
How many people are available to talk to? Like, if somebody reaches out today, will they have to maybe wait a few days in order to contact somebody from Family Resources?
Sure, that's a great question. So while Family Resources is a really large organization, the department that, or the program, if you will, that will be handling this is called our Survivors of Homicide and Other Violent Crimes Department. We have about, I have T in the background, she is our supervisor of that program. We have 5 advocates in that program, but we have many other individuals within the agency that are trained in the same way and can be pulled in for support. So I don't want anyone to worry about whether or not they're going to get services or get their phone call answered or get their debriefing done. Call us, we'll figure it out. We have a pretty strong bench of folks who have had years of experience in trauma and can provide support to anyone who needs it.
And how have you seen your role or Family Resources role change within the last 9 or 10 months that, you know, developments have been happening?
Sure. You know, we're not only here for the people in the community affected, but we also provide a lot of support to the systems. So the school system, law enforcement, who you just, you know, met with. So we're like the person in the center, you know, trying to help coordinate and make everybody's jobs easier, as well as provide support to anyone who's been impacted. So that's the nice thing about how unique our services are. We can tailor those to whatever you need. I know when all this first started, they needed someone to field calls to make sure that supplies were dropped off for volunteers who were searching for Breasia. We fielded those calls. Is that an example I would put in a brochure if that's what Family Resources does? No, not necessarily, but that's what our community needed, and that's how we could offer support and help. And we partnered with the Davenport School as a drop-off site. So I would just say, I've worked at Family Resources for 14 years, and we are definitely in a place in our community now where we just know that even though we all come from different organizations or services, we all have one purpose and we all work really well together to make sure our community's needs are met.
And is there something that you would recommend people go against? Like, social media can be very toxic sometimes, victim blaming, for example.
I would stay off social media right now. I would stay off social media right now. If you were someone who knew Breasia or are feeling some loss around this, I don't recommend social media as your outlet. Pick up the phone, talk to the people you know and trust and care about and you know need your support, or if you need support from someone, pick up the phone and call the person that you can get that. I don't think you're gonna get that from social media. That's just my candid advice.